When you sing it now, then, does it have a different meaning?
I've lived the dream, I'm living it now, and I don't want it to go away.
Susan Boyle achieved unimaginable success after her incredible audition on Britain's Got Talent. Initially, she was not the favorite, but her powerful voice changed everything. She had a successful career, winning America's Got Talent The Champions, and her wealth surpassed $45 million. Then she suddenly vanished from the public eye. Join us as we uncover what happened to the singer and more about her story. Susan Boyle is living, thriving proof that one should never judge a book by its cover. Susan Boyle was born on April 1, 1961. Her father, Patrick Boyle, was a miner and sang, while her mother, Bridget Boyle, worked as a shorthand typist. Susan had 4 elder brothers and 6 elder sisters and grew up in a council house in West Lothian, Scotland, where she still resides. Rejected at school, the only thing that Susan felt some peace with was her love for music. She was a choir member of her parish church and also participated actively in local talent searches, competing successfully. Her mother urged her to audition for Britain's Got Talent, but Susan thought she was too old, so she dropped the idea. Though she enjoyed watching it on television, Susan could not audition when it started in 2004. After her mother died in 2007, she finally decided to audition in 2008. She had been a caregiver for her sick mother until her mother's death and had not performed in public until this occasion. During the show Britain's Got Talent held in Glasgow, Susan astounded the judges and the viewers with her vocal cover of I Dreamed a Dream, the chorus of which elicited a standing ovation. Amanda Holden said it was the biggest wake-up call ever, as she continued to point to people looking down on Susan due to her appearance. Subsequently, better known as Susan Boyle, famous personalities such as Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher started tweeting to support her. After accomplishing success worldwide, her audition video went viral on YouTube, gaining the most views out of any YouTube video at the time. Although she finished second in the competition and faced early challenges due to exhaustion, Susan began her new life as an artist, joining her fellow contestants on tour and working on her debut album. Susan's story inspired many, showing that dreams can come true at any age. Her debut album, I Dreamed a Dream, released in November 2009, broke sales records, selling over 2 million copies worldwide in its first week. It remains the fastest-selling debut album by a female artist ever recorded. From the start, Susan's dream seemed as distant as the stars. She was the youngest of 6 sisters and 4 brothers, born when her mother Bridget was 47 and had little means to care for another child. The birthing process was nearly life-threatening, and Susan was briefly deprived of oxygen, which led to her learning disabilities, or so she was told later. At the peak of her career, she discovered something entirely new about her diagnosis. School was a harsh experience for Susan. She was relentlessly bullied by peers and teachers alike. In a heartfelt interview, she shared how hard it was to keep up in a system that valued speed and quick learning. She said, "I was a slow learner. I am just a little slower at picking things up than others, so you get left behind in a system that wants to rush on. You know, that was what I felt was happening to me." Her teachers cruelly punished her with a belt when she struggled academically. Her peers nicknamed her Susie Simple and constantly insulted her, making school the worst time of her life. Bullying and corporal punishment stunted her self-growth and created more obstacles in her academic journey. Taking the stage on Britain's Got Talent was Susan's subtle way of proving her tormentors wrong, showing she could achieve something great despite their cruelty. Her performance was a sweet revenge. She later wrote and performed You Will See on her first album, a song reminding her bullies that she made it despite their heartlessness. However, her path was not easy. In 2011, Susan revealed a tragic part of her childhood. Apart from the undiscovered learning disorder, she also had epilepsy. The doctors had given the correct diagnosis, but those who were close to Susan, her parents and teachers, could not deal with the epileptic condition. The doctors had made a correct diagnosis, but her parents and teachers did not know how to handle Susan's epilepsy. This condition is not unknown among musicians. Sir Elton John, Neil Young, and Lil Wayne also suffer from epilepsy. However, in Susan's case, the diagnosis was severely mishandled. She recalled having seizures at school regularly, which provided more ammunition for her bullies. She would faint during lessons, and upon regaining consciousness, her peers would gather around, call her names, and laugh at her. At home, things were not much better. Her parents would overprotect her during episodes, and if the problem became too troublesome, they would leave her to fend for herself. When she asked for extra help, her father would call her touchy. The general assumption was that Susan's epilepsy was linked to her learning disabilities, which was not the case, so the condition went untreated. It is no surprise that Susan graduated from school with few qualifications. She had trouble finding a job due to her lack of qualifications and undiagnosed learning disability. According to Susan, she applied to many places but either did not get a call back or failed after her first interview. She eventually got a job as a trainee cook at West Lothian College, which lasted only 6 months. Mostly, she had to move from one government training program to another without a stable job or ample income. Despite these challenges, she found joy and solace in performing at local venues, which was the extent of her musical career until a tragic loss pushed her to pursue a dream she had not dared to before despite having a tough family life. Susan Boyle believed in forgiveness and selflessness. She did not have much growing up and was not a romantic, famously saying during her Britain's Got Talent stint that she had never been married and never been kissed. Her modesty and decency led to significant life decisions. After her father's passing, all her siblings eventually left their 4-bedroom council house, leaving behind their old, sick, and frail mother. Only Susan and her 10-year-old cat Pebbles stayed. Even after becoming a world-class musical artist and earning millions, Susan still lives in her childhood home, embracing the simplicity of her life. A neighbor mentioned that when her mother Bridget Boyle died, Susan would not come out for 3 or 4 days or answer the door or phone. Susan is a practicing Roman Catholic, singing in her church choir and volunteering by visiting elderly members of the congregation in their homes. She described her life as mundane and routine before stardom during a 2010 episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show. In 2012, Susan was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome and made this public in a BBC interview in December 2013. Additionally, she also has epilepsy. In November 2012, when asked about internet dating, she joked that she was too scared, saying knowing my luck I would go out on a date and you would find my limbs scattered around various Blackburn dust bins. In July 2013, Susan endorsed the Better Together campaign to keep Scotland as part of the United Kingdom in the 2014 independence referendum. She stated, "I am a proud patriotic Scot passionate about my heritage and country, but I am not a nationalist." She added, "We have retained our proud identity while being a part of Britain." Susan is a non-drinker and she is a type 2 diabetes patient who was first diagnosed in June 2013. In November 2014, the media reported that she had a boyfriend who often claimed to be her first boyfriend and they were almost the same age. She suffered a small stroke in 2022 and later shared this during an episode on June 4, 2023, after a Britain's Got Talent show. What do you think motivates Susan Boyle to remain in her childhood home till today in Britain's Got Talent? Despite her kindly-looking face, Susan Boyle's appearance was shunted since she had no fancy attire, but her beautiful voice stunned everyone including the judges. The change from the terrible scenes of bullying to the one where she gets a standing ovation before, during, and after her performance attracted attention worldwide. Susan's audition went viral in a week and the clip that showed her was watched over 100 million times. Compilations of her earlier performances such as her 1999 Cry Me a River performance went viral. Susan faced the challenges of sickness and fatigue throughout the show. Still, she made an excellent final standing for which she eventually came second only to the dance troupe Diversity. However, she had won the most important battle of her life. The government adopted defense spending to meet public approval due to the events depicted in Susan's show. Many people realized people should never give up on their dreams no matter how old they are. Her first album I Dreamed a Dream was released in November 2009 and was a crashing success. It became one of the fastest-selling debut albums by a female artist. It sold more than 2 million worldwide in the first week of its launch and became the record breaker in UK sales. It also hit the feature of becoming the most sold album in the pre-sales from Amazon. The album's success was evident and I Dreamed a Dream was able to claim its place as the biggest-selling record in the world in the year of its release with over 9 million copies sold. Billboard News testified this as charting the highest first-week sales for a beginner female artist's album as recorded by SoundScan in 1991. In the aftermath of this success, Susan Boyle set a Guinness record for the fastest-selling debut album of a female artist, the record for the highest first-week sales, and the record for the oldest person to reach the highest record for a debut album in the United Kingdom. Susan's big voice and inspiring story resonated worldwide, particularly in America. She appeared on America's Got Talent where she was warmly received. Gone were the days of being undermined. Susan embraced her success and was no longer afraid. Instead of being a spectator in her own life, she truly embraced the world around her. Susan was on a roll in enjoying her life as the main character. Following the success of her debut album, she released 2 more: The Gift in 2010 and Someone to Watch Over Me in 2011. After a brief hiatus, she returned with a festive album standing ovation The Greatest Songs from the Stage in 2012. 2 years later she released another groundbreaking record, Hope, followed by A Wonderful World in 2016. After consistently working on her music, Susan took an indefinite break due to old age and other health issues. Many thought her music career was over, but Susan surprised her fans in 2019 by celebrating a decade with an album titled 10, which encapsulated the very best of her work. Once again, she surpassed all odds and made her mark on the music industry. However, with her triumphs came sadness. Susan's loyal fans could not help but notice that her heart-wrenching diagnosis had changed her drastically. Despite having much to offer, she now prefers to live a quiet life far from the glitz and glamour. Beneath her immense success, there is a hint of tragedy. Susan reflected on her work, saying, "I had a lot of fun making the album and I hope that the public likes it as much as I enjoyed it." If you thought Susan Boyle's success arc was surprising, brace yourself, because we are about to reveal heartbreaking revelations that will change everything you thought you knew about her journey. Could these revelations reshape how you view Susan's story? Let's find out. Britain's Got Talent had put Susan Boyle at the top of the world, but the extensive and rigorous training regime exhausted her. While she was content with her singing, fame was new. Following her appearance on the show, she struggled to keep up with the demanding routine of interviews, smiling for the paparazzi, and dealing with harsh and rude critics. Although Susan's reputation preceded her, she did not win the show, and right after the finale she had to be admitted to the hospital. The media scrutiny over 5 weeks had worn her out and she was physically becoming frail. Later it was revealed that Susan had suffered a breakdown. Despite being exceptionally talented, she failed to get enough public votes, which led her to lash out at the show's manager. Rumors from the set revealed that Susan had thrown water at a staff member while yelling that she hated the show. That night the staff at her London home called the police due to her strange behavior. A few hours later, Susan had to be admitted to a mental health care facility. The news of her breakdown spread quickly and it was revealed that the producers of Britain's Got Talent had ignored Susan's fragile mental and physical health leading up to the final. The United Kingdom's media regulator Ofcom wanted to initiate an inquiry into the show for prioritizing ratings over participants' health, but the idea was later dropped. This experience taught Susan to take her music schedule more lightly, but it was not feasible as she had a challenging touring timetable ahead. Despite this, she performed brilliantly for her fans while working on her music. Susan suffered another setback in her career in 2013 when she finally got an accurate diagnosis of her learning disability. Interestingly, though there was no actual brain damage, it was a misdiagnosis that was made concerning her young self. The singer was diagnosed with Asperger's, which is a type of autism spectrum disorder. Hearing such a revelation was heartbreaking, but on the other hand it was fortunate as well. For years Susan had believed that a minor complication at birth had caused her permanent damage. Reflecting on her academic years, she thought of herself as unlucky. However, the Asperger's diagnosis allowed her to receive the proper treatment for the first time in her life. In an interview with The Guardian, Susan revealed that being labeled as brain damaged always felt cruel and unfair. Deep down she knew she was like everyone else but had her way of doing things. She also hoped her diagnosis would encourage people to treat neurodivergent individuals more kindly. She stated, "I think people will treat me better because they will have a much greater understanding of who I am and why I do what I do." After the courageous disclosures, Susan got lots of support from fans and critics. People appreciated her authenticity and honesty about her life experiences, a trait that many celebrities shy away from. If this was not enough, Susan was forced to give up her only vice in the same year, her love for eating chocolate. This became complicated when she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Though the diagnosis was timely, Susan had to grapple with a new lifestyle while still adjusting to autism. Later, when the pandemic hit, she had to take extra measures to protect herself from the contagious COVID-19 virus, causing another rift in her musical career. For at least 2.5 years she had to stay home and avoid interacting with people who could have helped her record another groundbreaking album. Susan's life was not just about public support and successful albums. Things were bad at home too. In 2010 she bought herself a house with her earnings, but a group of rowdies made her life miserable by throwing rocks, trying to break in, and throwing fire paper at her house. Eventually, she returned to her childhood home and gave her fancy abode to her niece. She was generally sad about these experiences, but her sister's sickness led Susan to take a brief hiatus before her 2015 comeback. Her sister Bridie had lost her life to cancer at the age of 73, and since she was closest to Susan, her passing left Susan emotionally distressed. Additionally, Susan had to take care of Bridie's daughter. After Susan's explosive success, Bridie had been a supportive sister in many ways. She stood by Susan when the media scrutinized her for arbitrary things like her appearance and kept her grounded when success followed her everywhere. Bridie was Susan's keeper during her ugly feud with their brother Jerry. Susan's success meant she had millions in her bank account and everyone including her siblings wanted a piece of that. The issue arose when Susan decided to help Jerry by giving him £75,000 to save his failing business. When her other siblings took issue with this, Susan claimed that Jerry had threatened to commit suicide if she did not give him the check. This caused a fallout between them and Jerry publicly accused Susan of lying. However, in 2016 Susan's public breakdown at Heathrow Airport would reunite the siblings, providing a heartwarming ending to their feud. Unfortunately, Susan Boyle's health issues have not ceased. In May 2022 it became known that she had a minor stroke and therefore found it even more challenging to work on music. She delivered this touching news after a great performance on Britain's Got Talent stage where she got to sing with the West End cast of Les Miserables, an event that was so touching for her. Susan expressed that it was significant to return to the stage after her stroke, saying, "Last April I suffered a minor stroke and I thought it would be crazy to be back on stage, but I have done it." That night she took to Instagram to tell her followers that she had to undergo extensive speech practice to perform her beloved song I Dreamed a Dream. Her hard work paid off and today she continues pursuing her musical career despite various health challenges. Despite the stroke that delayed her plans for new music, the sensational Susan Boyle still performs for her fans whenever she has the will and energy to do so. Though she largely stays away from the public eye, recently Susan has cited not having children as one of her biggest regrets. Still, she does have a secret life involving an American beau whose identity remains unknown even to the most interested media circles. In 2016 she mentioned to the Mirror that she was casually chatting with an American doctor but they were not serious then. Since then, media reports indicate that Susan is now in a happy stable relationship. However, she has no plans to disclose her partner publicly or to get married. Her boyfriend does accompany her on special occasions like her birthday but that is all that is known about her love life. Before her major appearance on the show, her fans were eager for new music. Susan Boyle remains a gift that keeps on giving and while we wait patiently for her next musical venture.